This is fine with Sam and Eric. I'm Sam.
I'm Eric.
And Eric, is everything fine?
Yeah, fuck yeah. We ratioed the fuck out of the Republicans yesterday on voting rights,
Comment
which
comment
was a
period,
lot
right?
of fun.
Yeah. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? How did you start? Because it was your initiative that you initiated. So why don't you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I'm a huge voting rights nerd, right? So I definitely pay attention to everything that's happening online, and wound up seeing that this woman, Cleta Mitchell, who's a Republican, voting rights disadvocate, if you will, posted something on Twitter like late yesterday, 2 days ago afternoon, that like everyone who believes in the Save Act needs to go comment in support of this new guidance from the Election Assistance Commission, the EAC. And the EAC was possibly going to issue guidance to all the states that they needed to enforce the executive order that voters needed to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. Now, this would be a huge disaster for young people and like women, because it's 100. Yeah, the only thing that they wanted to have was a passport. 50% of Americans have a passport. It costs $165 to get a new passport and 6 weeks, right? So it would have just like massacred voting participation in the country. And also, if you're a woman who got married and changed your name, and so your name was different. You needed to have like a certificate of marriage, which your husband didn't need to have, and like these other things to prove your name change. So they put this out on the interwebs. We saw it, and like yesterday morning at like 8:30, I saw it, and I was like, well, let's beat them. And so like on the down low, we put together a document of like all the talking points for people that feel a little would feel not very confident about contacting a government agency, and then got it out. And then we got it out to a number of streamers who did video. I did a video. One in particular, Vosh, did a video of it that had 80,000 views. And then we generated close to 9,000 comments, right? Like they had like tens of Republican comments in the morning. And then, the gamer kids and the kids that are watching live streams got a hold of this and went nuts, right? And like we're issuing comments, and really, so we ratioed them, like we won the fight, right? And I think that like it's really cool because the left has been looking for its like Freeper army for a while. And for people who aren't familiar with Freepers, right, and like the early days of Daily Kos and whatnot, like there was like the blogosphere was the early internet culture, and like it was all about Freepers, or the free pressers, that would go in and vote on online polls and make it look like the right was winning everything cultural, right? And then the press would go and write about it like, well, like this viewpoint here had like 98% of people believe that children in poor countries shouldn't be able to eat, right? And like, or whatever it was. And the left has always been slow to get there, because the left is always like, well, if you say this, it's the wrong thing, and you can't do that, and overthinks everything. And it was just like, it was awesome to see a bunch of young people who everyone in the party is freaking out about right now, because there was that Yale research poll that showed that like 18 to 21-year-olds were leaning more Republican than ever before. And like the reality is like their values haven't really changed, right? Like, but we're just not talking to them in a way that motivates them to get engaged. And it was awesome to see how like this blew up online. I mean, like a video from yesterday late afternoon having 80,000 views so quickly and generating all these comments is great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it was a good fit. I mean, I think it's also important to note is an especially good fit for the online community that I started, Progressive Victory, which is it's a Discord server where young people are hanging out and doing political actions, and and then this streamer who did this, there are a couple streamers that we reached out to about this, but this video that drove a lot of the attention was from this guy Vosh, who's a large streamer, and it's a good match for both our community and his, which there's a lot of overlap. We've done a lot of recruiting from Vosh's community because his audience and a lot of people on our server are trans, and obviously if they've changed their names at all, that's a huge deal in this bill as well. So so I think like it's also important to realize just like the Republican efforts right now are targeting so many different groups of people, and having reach not just into like, I think the biggest problem that I've had with the Democrats up to now isn't that we've gone like too woke. I mean, we could have an argument about that, right? But I'm not upset about the wokeness if we have actual reach into actual communities of people with scale that are
Mhm.
members of those groups, right? And so, we need to be able to mobilize people from if we're going to be working on trans issues, we shouldn't just talk to representatives of that community and have them like speak in Congress and be advocates. We need to mobilize armies of people in the trans community to do stuff to stand up for themselves and help them win the political battles that are going to affect their lives. And if we serve as the conduit for them, through which they can achieve their own power, we're going to reap massive benefits. And it's not just them; it's every group of people, anybody who feels like they're not getting what they want. And right now, that's everybody, right? Like, I don't think that the Republicans have an agenda that's actually solving people's problems right now. They're very light on policy, but even when they do talk about policy, none of it's really relevant. Like the tariff stuff. Like, I mean, people generally want to have more jobs created in the United States, but they're not waking up every day being like, like more jobs shipped overseas. They're like trying to live their lives, right? And they've got actual problems they're trying to fix in their lives.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
No, it's cool. It's
right.
cool. And then I just got a message. I got a secret message on Signal about from someone in a Secretary of State's office who saw that and was just like, "That was amazing." Right, like,
Yeah.
so it's cool, and like we're helping other people, so sorry, that's my ego. But like, so, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't think that like wokeism is necessarily a problem. I do, like, I am much more of a classical liberal, and I don't like cancel culture in as much, because I think that cancel culture makes things foreboding and then makes them more attractive. I do think that like the way forward for us is to beat their bad ideas with our better ideas, right? Is
I
debate and open conversation, right? Like, I don't get mad when someone disagrees with me. I just want to have the conversation and see them as a potential like ally down the road, right? Rather than like writing people off so quickly. And like that's where I am. Because like I see a lot of these things with like, like that, we've lost comedy, we've lost being fun. And like I think we just got to take ourselves less seriously.
right.
And it doesn't mean that we start like, getting mad at trans kids or like doing all this stuff, which I've said I think every single stream. But like, this is like, we need to change our mentality and debate them, because you know what, they're wrong, right? And like we can
Okay.
win these arguments, and and have like real conversation about it. I mean, I don't know. I think do we want to watch the video of
Sure.
Vosh quickly?
Sure. Let me just quickly say one more thing though, and then let's play the Vosh video. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think my biggest problem with our political tactics is that we've been acting like we have that like we need to be deplatforming people who we think have offensive opinions, which they are a lot of the time, and then making sure that the platforms that are like mainstream America remain clean and pure from all that hate. But the problem is that's a failed strategy. Like day one, now the right wing is the mainstream media, and what we think of as the mainstream media no longer really exists, and it's not.
Yeah, they're useless. I mean,
Right.
like,
So it's as a tactic, the idea of canceling somebody or saying don't deplatform this person, don't platform. How are you platforming this? Don't platform this person. That is a really bad strategy for winning. And people who are pursuing that strategy, or like on Twitter or in comments or anywhere, being like, why are you platforming so and so? No, it's actually us being platformed by them at this point because they're bigger than we are. Like that,
yeah,
we actually need to be working. We need to be having content that we make directly with our political enemies at this point. Because if we don't, we're going to lose. They have the majority position in the media space.
yeah. It's like Dean Withers, right? Like he was doing this thing where he's following
Yeah,
Charlie Kirk, right?
yeah,
And it's like brilliant that he's going around and talking to people, and like he's doing this like follow the Charlie Kirk tour. So he's going on college campuses where Charlie Kirk's like sitting in his like, you know, little golf cart, like sipping lemonade, like, and like all these kids with MAGA hats all over the place, and it's like, debate me, right? And he's just like, no, and it really just shows how weak they are, right? And like, you know, like that's the right tactic. Like I want Dean Withers going around and saying, debate me, right? Because I think that we have better ideas, and there's a reason the reason I'm left of center, and a reason I'm a Democrat, and like I'm not afraid to have that exchange.
Yes, agreed. Okay,
watch the video.
Let's watch the video. This is the video that played last night, right?
Yes.
Hey, normally when I do a read-off in an offline segment, I try to workshop it a little bit to, you know, convey it in my voice, but unfortunately this time we're very low on time and it's kind of really important. So I'm just going to pass this along the grapevine to you real quick. You know, I'm just going to read this off the template, all right? I'm just going to, not even going to think. I'm just going to work on my, you know, my delivery here. Please, this is from the grapevine. This is from Progressive Victory, of course, the organization, the only organization, some might say, that's trying to unscrew the country. Given the position we're in, it seems like the work they're doing is pretty valid. In this case, we're fighting for just a little thing, the future of the right to vote. Look, this is important, okay? No waffling. I'm just going to read it. Right-wing groups are planning to flood the Election Assistance Commission, EAC, Standards Board with public comment ahead of its annual meeting on April 24th. That's tomorrow. At this meeting, the EAC Standards Board will be discussing whether the EAC should amend the National Mail Voter Registration Form. If you're an American and you're 18 or older, you're probably familiar with that form, to require documentary proof of citizenship in accordance with Trump's recent executive order. This would be the only way to register to vote using the federal form would be with a passport, real ID proving citizenship, not available in any states except Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Vermont, and Washington. That's not a lot. That's not a lot of the states. It's not even a majority of the states. Government photo ID proving citizenship or military ID. Birth certificates, naturalization forms, etc. do not count. The EAC Standards Board is accepting public comment until midnight tonight, April 23rd. That's today. Midnight tonight is 12 p.m. or 12 a.m., I guess, Eastern time today, or in other words, 4 hours and 43 minutes from now. It's not a lot of time. On this issue and how it would affect the public. Both individuals and organizations can submit comments to this link. That's it. That's the tweet. There's an effort by the right wing to flood the AAC board meeting that is tomorrow with comment. No doubt they're going to be saying, you know, we have to implement this. Otherwise, 50 trillion illegals are going to vote. They're going to vote for Kamala too. It's going to be horrible. Whatever. This is legitimately, potentially disastrous. You know, it would essentially annul the federal voter registration form by mail. It's, look, Republicans have always benefited from voter disenfranchisement. It's not a secret. They've been open about it, okay? The fewer people vote, on average, the better it is for Republicans. This could set some things in place for a very long time. So, you need to go and submit comments that are not insane, psychotic, and anti-democratic. You need to go over to the regulations.gov website and submit comments to the EAC yourself. It's right over here. But if you'd like some help with filling out the form and knowing how to submit it, wow, PV's got you covered. Right here. Step 1, sign this form to join the PV Discord. That Progressive Victory, they're so pushy. They want you to not allow the country to be destroyed. I know it's so entitled of them. Add your name to sample text and send to EAC. They're giving you a form. You know, they're giving you like a template, right? A template, you know? It's easy stuff, folks, for the future of the country, I'd say. And then you can submit it right here. And of course, then get the opportunity to submit, write a comment, start heading here, attach files if you want to perhaps submit a picture of you dabbing. I don't know why you'd want to, probably don't do that. Look, it's all right here.
And it's your document, right?
Do you want to become a PV member? Well, you should. But again, we're
I wrote it in like 20 minutes.
This is last second stuff, okay? I got the message today. I wasn't even supposed to stream today, folks. I guess I'm still not streaming. I'm just recording this. Every moment that I spend talking right now is a moment that this isn't getting uploaded. It's kind of important. All right. All this is going to be in a pinned comment below and also in the video description. All right. I'm going to submit the link to this. Just come on, guys. It's my country. I live here. Okay, please. Don't f this up for us.
Awesome.
And people did it. Like, like over
Yeah.
1,000 people got into the server. Like, and it's just like, I just think that like the path forward for us is like, yeah, like we got to reach young people, but we got to engage young people and we got to get them feeling like they are empowered, right? And like, and do that through the channels that they're watching, right? And like, it's not so much talking at people and telling them what's right and wrong and what they need to do, but it's giving them ways for them to engage, right?
Yeah, some concrete things that they can do to make a difference that actually work, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
it makes a difference, right? Like this is actually something that matters. And like it's like, anytime you have like a local like, committee in a town that has a board to like discuss like renewable energy or whatever it is, like there's like three like 90-year-old people who like shuffle up there in their walkers and like, are mad about whatever, right? Like,
Mhm.
and if we are able to like point young people to ways that they can engage in things that they care about that actually matter and increase their ability to make an impact on their communities, they're going to do it, right? Like, I think that I think that a lot of young people right now are sort of like culturally coded right, but like actually values why coded left, right? So like that's like that's where things are. And it's sort of like what I was talking about a cancel culture. The whole thing is like what cancel culture does a lot of ways is just put, and I've talked about this before, is put parental advisory labels on everything, right? Like you can't engage with this, right? This is bad. And again, young people, me being one of them back in the day. My mom
Yeah,
bought me like the radio version of Dr. Gray's the Chronic,
yeah,
which like
yeah,
like every other word was bleeped out, and I was just like what the fuck is this shit?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Totally. Yeah, I think we need to trust people more and help them understand things, provide context, so that they can make judgments themselves about things. All right,
exactly.
yeah. Shall we talk about other news?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about other news. The Donald Trump blinking and blinking and blinking and blinking.
Yeah.
The like everyone on Wall Street being like, dude, you're gonna destroy everything. It's causing the back up. And there was like this meme, and Jay, I'm not sure if you have it. It's of the poker meme. Um, if not, I can drop it in a chat.
Do it. Drop it.
Okay, I
Yeah,
gotta go.
I'll talk for a little bit. So yeah. So the story here is that Trump is just like he's now hearing from people who run companies, very very large companies, and from Wall Street that his tariffs are a bad idea, and it's apparently changing his opinions. Well, and the funny thing about this is number one, uh, right before he reversed course on the tariffs, he like literally 2 days before he had said, "I will never change my opinion on this." Right? That's number one, and then number two, right? Like it just shows you like if you don't agree with what he's doing, he's really easy to manipulate. He's like so easy. And then the second thing is if you do agree with him, he's really easy to manipulate, and he's like a fair weather friend. He's not going to actually stand up for you, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. He's like the worst. Like I was talking about this last week. I think he's like the worst poker player in the world, right?
yeah,
Like,
right.
yeah, he's just like I'm gonna 350% tariffs on you, and
Yeah.
like she's just like,
Okay. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. And then like he's like, oh, okay, I fold, I'm out, I'm out. And it's like, dude, like you just like wrecked the entire economy for nothing. And like even if he rolls it back to zero today, like the first tariff shipment came into ports like this week and it was empty, right? So the
Oh,
container
God.
ships, which were all coming from China, are empty, or they're like canceling dockings. And you remember the Freedom Rally of all the trucks like driving all
Yes,
over the
yes,
place with
yes.
like
I do remember
flags
that.
and like all this
Yeah.
stuff about because like terrorists were causing like this is that times like a bajillion, right? Like
Right. I remember a couple years ago there were like the LA port was backed up, which is just one port of entry from China. And just that one port being backed up by like a couple weeks or whatever, like fucked the entire supply chain. And they were sticking "I did that" stickers about Biden all over the fucking country for the next 9, 12, 18 months because of that one LA port thing ricocheting, like reverberating through our economy. Now you're saying that Trump basically did that on purpose for no good
yeah,
reason.
for no good reason. So
Yeah,
like this is like for the week of like May 1st, right? Like or like
yeah.
I'm not even sure what the week begins, but like that like the first week of May, there are 800,000 less containers coming into the port of LA. So
Oh
that
my
means
god.
800,000 less jobs for truckers, right?
Right.
Because each one of those containers goes on a truck for delivery, right? So it's like, ha ha, like, yeah, like, there was 20,000 less containers because of the slow, like the longshoreman potential strike and other things under Biden. But like,
Right.
how about we multiply that
Right.
times,
It really is
20?
it
No,
really is
even
a
more than
recipe.
that.
It really is a recipe for stagflation, right? You can see how it is, right? Because if what we saw with Biden was the economy reopening all of a sudden. So all of a sudden, everything that had been stopped had to like restart again, and so everything was piled up, right? So there was like it was just inflation, right? Like the economy, where there was no economic activity, and then all of a sudden there's economic activity again, tons of economic activity, right? In this case, it's actually deflationary in that there is no more economic. They've stopped economic activity, so it's very similar to a lockdown in that. But then also they're making sure that the supply chain is fucked, and you the only thing you can get as alternative goods are produced here in the United States. So it's also inflationary
Yeah,
because
and it puts
because the supply chain is fucked.
a bajillion% tariffs on everything too that's shipped in from China. And like and so it's like, okay, how's that good? And then you have all these like all the hustle bros and all these other people that have been like drop ship and this is how you make money. Well, like
Right,
their businesses are fucked, right? And
right,
like so like because like even if he does roll it back to zero, there's a month worth of like inability to do that, right? Like these people told you like this is gonna make you money, right? But
right.
everyone's losing money because no one's timing the market right, and like it's
And
impossible unless you're in the administration. Then you're timing the market perfectly, right? It's
yeah,
all market ridiculous.
and it's cool to see Democrats calling for investigations into insider trading because I'm sure that that's happening all over the place. Because these people aren't following the law already, so who cares? So of course, they're going to do whatever it is to make themselves money off of
Yeah,
the
I
data.
mean, like the stock market looks like a great roller coaster ride right now, but like
Yeah,
like, that's about it. It's like this flat, and it's like right, and they're doing market manipulation on these swings, and then insider trading on it. But at the same
right,
time, like none of the average person knows what's what, right? Like they said that the market, like everyone was talking over the weekend because I'm a degenerate and I watch Wall Street Bets for like shits and giggles every once in a while,
yeah,
and like everyone's like it's gonna be Green Monday, like so like everyone was like piling into pre-market trading, and then it was like down like 1,500 points, right? And
right,
like so like all of them are losing, right? Because like they
yeah,
don't know, and nobody knows, nobody understands what the hell's going on.
right. So let's talk about who the biggest losers are from Trump's economic policies so far. It sounds like we're saying
Mm-hmm.
truckers, uh, people who make their like Gen Z entrepreneurs who make their money on Discord servers selling shit. Um, uh, Farmers who are the biggest agricultural products are the biggest
Yeah,
export industry in the United States. And then
cattle
terrorist
ranchers too. Like there's the one great thing that I saw online was like China won't take our beef. Well, we'll just export our beef to India. And I was just like,
the Hindu country.
yeah, like the Hindu country
Yeah,
where cows are sacred. You're gonna sell beef to India. Like that is absolutely brilliant. Like
yeah, amazing.
I know
Okay,
it's like
truckers. Okay. And people who like online gambling. So
oh yeah,
those are the people. Those are the biggest losers right now. Uh, who are those people, Eric?
crypto, right? Is also a big loser because like they just like made it so that like everything is going to be like a meme coin or like a rug pull and like
Yep.
ended all regulation. So
Yep.
that's going to hurt crypto in the long run. In the short term, like all the scammers are stoked. Like we've just like moved into like the scam economy, right? And like that's what everything is. Like how can you scam the other person the most? I mean, like it's like you could say Musk is a big loser reputationally. I mean, he
Yeah.
still made a metric fuck ton of money, and he's probably trading in the market like in the biggest participant in insider trading.
Probably.
But the so it's tough to say he's a loser, but like
Tesla's fucked.
reputationally,
Tesla's fucked, right? Didn't he?
Tesla's fucked. Like, you know, I went from wanting a Tesla and like, you know, like my kid watching Mr. Beast videos where he was giving away Teslas all the time. And like talking about how awesome Teslas were and wanting them to get them to like my 12-year-old being like, you know, Musk is a chode. Right?
Right.
Because he
Okay.
watched the Mr. Beast video of him saying that he was going to move production overseas and wouldn't do it in the US.
Right. So, okay. All these farmers, truckers, online gamblers, drop shipping Discord managers. Okay, so who are those people? I'm pretty sure all those people are Trump's biggest voters. So
Yeah.
he's basically just the people who are his biggest supporters are the ones getting most fucked by his policies. And it's crazy. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they even try to talk to him about this. You know, I don't know. I mean, are they? They must be trying to talk to him about this. I
Oh,
wonder.
they gotta be. I mean, but it's like whatever little birdie is in his ear lasts is the way he
Yeah.
goes, right? Like, you know, like you have like when you have Besant, right? And like, you know, look, like I have my issues with Besant or anyone in the administration, but like, you know, at least he's like a sane, rational guy, and even more so the more I hear about what's happening in the administration, like him screaming at Musk and like all this other stuff. But like whenever Besson gets to him, he's like, we're not going to touch Jerome Powell, and like, you know, we're not going to do anything. And then like Besson like goes to bed, and then like Navarro is like running into the Oval, and is just like, trade wars are great, and like you know, Powell needs to go, and like all this. Then he's like overnight, he's like, Powell is the devil. I mean, he's like a robot. Like it's like you just program him quickly, and he'll go out and say whatever the last person tells him to.
It would be really fun to take a look at the like White House schedule and match it up with Trump's posts on social media, and then like you can chart his like ideological path as it goes through the day compared with people he meets with, because I'm pretty sure they would match up pretty well.
I know. It probably
Whoever talked to him last.
Yeah, and that's all. It's always been that way, right? And like you know, it's just like absolute chaos, which is like why voters kicked them out in 2020, barely. And like you know, they forgot about it and just remembered the days before the pandemic when, like you know, because of the Obama economy, the market was still going up. And like you know, he lowered taxes for everybody, and like you know, like that was great. And
you know what
so
this reminds me of? You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of playing Capture the Flag back in Halo, back in the day when I was younger and played a lot of Halo, where like, or like King of the Hill games where it did like it just didn't matter who controlled it right up to the end. You just had to be the person there camped out in the last 30 seconds. And Trump is the flag or the hill that you're trying to capture, right? As long as you're the last person in the office, you get to decide U.S. policy because he's going to do whatever it is that the last person who talks to him tells him to do before he pulls the trigger.
We should develop an iPhone game like around that, right? Like you know, like you're Scott Besant, and it's like you know like a tower defense game, and like
yeah.
towers to like avoid Navarro getting into the Oval, right? Like
Trump will do. Yeah, you have to like make sure that you arrange the right person to talk to Trump 30 seconds before his pen is put in his hand to do whatever it is that you want him to do.
I know, exactly. Like the automaton presidency, right? Like, oh my god.
Yeah, who needs AI? This guy is an AI. He just whatever a script goes into his like generator like 5 seconds before is what pops out.
Exactly. I mean,
the AI president. All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about Musk because he came up just a second ago? So Tesla's not doing very well, right?
Yeah, no, the 71% earnings plunge, right? And like
not only that, insane.
71%. And then the only reason they made a profit was because of government like because of the government, right? Like
Government contracts.
they held a number of credits, right? Carbon credits, right? That they sold off.
Oh
So,
yes.
like they sold off like $561 million of carbon credits, but they
Yeah.
only reported $400 million in earnings, right? So if they
Right.
hadn't sold off the government like
So,
credits,
if not for ESG programs, his company would have been in the red by like hundreds of
$100
millions
million,
of dollars. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
$100 million, right? So
Thank you, Elon Musk saying, "Thank you, DEI. Thank you, ESG."
no, well,
Like,
he's definitely not. I mean, like,
yeah,
God forbid, like, he can never admit it, right? Like, I think that's part
no,
of the reason why they're so radicalized is because, like, they know they never would have gotten to where they are if it wasn't for government programs.
yeah. None of Musk's companies would ever have gotten to where they are without government. Isn't it like PayPal, uh, the rocket stuff? By the way, he didn't start any of those companies, right? They were all like other
No, no,
companies.
no. I mean, like, I think I got someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that, like, like Teal and Musk and all, like, Musk was like a low level programmer for
For
PayPal.
PayPal, right?
And like, but like, it was, I think it was Hoffman's technology that they wound up using, and they wound up buying PayPal because they liked the name, right? And like, so they wanted the name and that IP, and not because like any of the underlying like any tech that was used in PayPal. So he didn't even invent
Wow.
that, right? Like they just had like a good marketing like brand. And so they wanted to buy it, and then he became like, the most genius person in the world. But
Right, right,
like
right. They started comparing
came
the Stark or whatever to Tony
I
Stark.
know. He's like, I'm Tony Stark because I came up with the name PayPal, right? Like, like, no, you're not. Like, you're a fucking marketing guy. So that's why he's so like toxic and like can't like stand that people don't like him because
Yeah,
like he knows that the only thing he had was a name that someone else made and that made him rich, right?
yeah.
Like, it's so much of this is luck.
Or just faking it. Like,
He's faking
like
it. Like, he made
I don't think that it's luck so much. I think it's like creating fake stuff that then through narrative becomes real enough that you can start raising enough money from people that then you can sort of skip to the next thing. It's very, very similar to what Sam Bankman-Fried did, I think, where it's like you just like keep making bets even though you've got nothing, that you're just bluffing the whole time, and then keep making bigger and bigger bets that in hoping that everything just works out. But the problem with that strategy is that sooner or later someone's gonna call your bluff.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
you lose. That's what we see.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty tough to lose when you have like billions of dollars, right? Like, like, it sort of insulates you from like poor decision making.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and he'll probably always be a rich guy, but all of his companies are so speculative. None of them have any products that actually work really, except for Tesla, I guess. And and
yeah, tell that to the people who like,
right,
died in the
right,
fire of the Rex.
right. And even Teslas are not great products, right? So all of it is based on speculation on future returns that probably won't materialize unless unless the economy continues to grow, which it probably won't. And maybe that's why he's so hot to trot on getting everybody to have babies, because he knows that the economy can't grow unless everybody has babies. But the economy's not going to grow because we're not having babies. So
No,
it's
I
all
mean,
it's
like,
all speculation. And then when the inevitable like market correction happens to bring expectations in line with reality, he's not going to be the richest man in the world. He maybe still be rich, but like he will not be the richest man in the world anymore, because all the companies that he invested in that make up most of his net worth are going to be dog shit at that point. They're going to be stocks that you wouldn't want to pick up with a 10-foot pole.
yeah, I think maybe like I think he's gonna benefit greatly from government largesse. Like,
Right now that he's
he's gonna
bought the
win.
government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's gonna win like the Golden Dome, and like we're literally giving him space lasers to build, which I'm like a little bit less excited about, right?
What?
Like,
Why are people comparing him to Tony Stark? People should compare him to fucking Bond villain. I mean, space lasers. This is like
it's
he's gonna put a base on the moon. But is
like
he gonna
GoldenEye.
yeah, I'm gonna
Eh,
graft lasers onto the faces of sharks. That's what he's
I know. I
doing.
mean, that's exactly what it is. Like, I mean, that's like, I mean, it was like the highlight of my college like life was like 40-ounce Wednesday when like we like all got 40s and like played GoldenEye until
Yeah,
we like couldn't remember anything.
yeah.
Um,
Jay, what are you bringing up? This is too funny.
yeah. I mean, it's Doctor Evil, right?
Yeah, he is Dr. Evil.
Man,
That's great.
I had a great, I had something that I gotta plumb the depths of my Facebook page, but yeah, I know I still have Facebook.
Someone needs to make this. Trump. Someone needs to put a big meme where Musk's face is Dr. Evil and then Trump is Mini Me, because I feel like that is.
Oh,
the
I
best
have that. I
combination.
have that. I have that. I have that. I have it right here. I'll show it. It already exists. Let me go to my timeline and
Because
download.
it's really accurate. I mean, Trump really is like his Mini Me at this point.
Oh yeah, here. It's now in the chat, Jay.
It's too accurate, man. It's too
I know.
accurate.
I had the brilliant idea that my son was finally old enough to watch Austin Powers, and there was
Uh-huh.
like definitely lots of explaining going on, but
Yeah.
like what a lot of vagina.
Right.
What? My son, I thought it was the funniest thing in the world, but then
Right.
afterwards, immediately turns to me. He's like, "Now can I watch Family Guy?"
That's funny. Oh my God, Trump does look like a very wrinkly baby.
I mean, I mean, he's such a chud. Like
Yeah.
the amount of bronzer that he puts on and makeup. He's like a 270-pound guy who wears makeup, and claims that he's the most masculine person in the world. Like JD Vance, is in love with smoky eyeshadow. Um, like these are the paragons of masculinity.
I
Like,
think these guys are a lot. I don't know about these specific people, Trump and Musk and whoever, but a lot of these guys are definitely on the down low. And more power to them embracing their real identities over time. But right now,
yeah, I just
not
have
really out of.
I just have a general issue of saying like you need to be the most masculine man in the world and blah 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 blah,
Yeah,
and being this overly concerned about what their appearance is and what they say and all the things they accuse the left of, right?
yeah,
And saying it's all virtue signaling and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, they're doing everything that around content, right? Like everything is about
yeah.
gaming the algorithm, making sure it goes far, and the left, to we haven't really thought about things that way, right? Like
No,
we
we
thought
haven't.
about being right and not what culturally wins things for us, right?
But
Um,
but all
and
that means is that we haven't been doing, like, the minute that we actually start doing the thing that you're talking about, we're just going to just wipe the floor with them because we haven't even been engaging on the strategies that matter. So once we do, they're screwed. The
yeah,
only way we can win is if we are literally not playing the game.
exactly. It's like the God. I keep on referencing the first movie I saw in I think the movie theaters that I remember was War Games, right?
Yeah.
With Matthew Broderick, and the only way to win is not to play. But it was all about gaming out nuclear warfare, and I just I remember that so well, right? And it was sort of one of my formative experiences as a 6-year-old and thinking about international, everything in the Cold War as growing up was Daryl, the AI kid who I mean, I thought it was cool because he got a Black Hawk and with the Blackbird super fast jet and whatnot, but the AI kid that was developed to defeat Russia. So
Yeah.
that's my formative experiences, and now we're Russia, you can take Ukraine. And
That's another thing that we hadn't even talked about that in the production meeting. Like Trump is just saying, well, if you don't give Crimea away, Ukraine, then we're out, right? It's like, bro, like, what are you talking about?
yeah,
With allies like these.
I know. It's no, no, how is it good that Russia gets Crimea and stations its navy there permanently and can threaten the rest of Western Europe and I don't know.
The only thing that's happening is that Western Europe is asserting itself, and they're just going to take over the role that we had. This is not.
I mean, that's the smart play for them is to
Yeah,
delay until they get their own Starlink, they get their own all this other
yeah,
stuff, and
and
they're
they'll be able
able
to
to.
replicate all this stuff. I mean, it's like we have a more powerful military machine than they do, but what we're gonna, they have the ability to send weapons just like we do, and they're gonna be building up their own militaries. I mean, they're doing it right now. So all this means is all this really means is that we're just not a player in Europe anymore, and
No, I mean,
none
yeah,
of what we say to Europeans matters anymore. Just we're not relevant.
yeah,
So
and I had friends like I had friends that were at like the World Bank and IMF meetings this week, and like the consensus that came out of that from like on the down low from like economists talking was that like dollar dominance is done,
wow,
like DONE done, like dead, right? Like because it's too much of a risk, and we've hurt ourselves in this way. That it's going to turn into a multi-currency world where like the dollar dominates the the Western Hemisphere.
hmm
Then like so like Argentina, Brazil, like South America up.
yeah,
Euro dominates Europe, Africa, and like the Middle East, but it's competing with the renminbi, which is like the Chinese yuan, and that dominates Asia, right? And in that like sort of economic, like we're basically going to like the Monroe Doctrine of the 1900s,
right.
like
Very similar to like the exact situation at the beginning of the early 1900s that then led to massive conflict later in the
yeah,
century.
World War I, World War II, like like all these things were based on like a non-unified system and
Yeah,
people trying to like assert dominance. So, I mean, I just think that like we're heading into a very, very precarious period. Again, I do think that like we can win and reassert control, but I do think that like we really have to be offering people something new. And like there's like the New York Times article which came up today, and a lot of people on Blue Sky were pissed off about because it's like a bunch of old Clinton people that are super centrist saying like this is what
Mhm.
how Democrats were able to win in
Yeah.
1992, right?
Yeah, can
And
you
it's
bring that up? It's yeah,
so
it's the second tab, Jay. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
and so and like and like and so like people are mad and like saying like these people haven't won since the 90s, why would we listen to them and blah 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 blah. But I think that's like sort of the wrong thing to take out of this.
Right.
I mean, what I really think is important here is that the Democrats had lost three straight elections, right? Like in the Reagan in 1980. In 1984, Mondale lost every single state in America besides Massachusetts. Yay, Massachusetts. And then like Reagan with like the Iran Contra like affair in the late 80s and Oliver North, and like through all this like not being able to speak because he had Alzheimer's, like we still lost to George H.W. Bush, like with Michael Dukakis, and it was because of racism and a bunch of other like the Willie Horton ad, which is the famous ad, that like it was an extremely racist ad.
Yeah.
But like Democrats were like we're still going down. We had controlled the House and like everything because of gerrymandering. But like Clinton won in the middle of what was a realignment around Republicans nationally.
Right.
And like that came to be in '94 when Newt Gingrich sort of like like that revolution came to power, right?
hmm
And people are mad at Clinton because of like welfare reform and all these other things. But what he did do was like he recognized where people were, and that like a lot of people felt like the New Deal had become old and sort of archaic, um, and offered something out that like that connected with voters as something that needed to happen, right?
Right.
And
That
so
was the political situation, right? Like the New Deal coalition was losing repeatedly, right? That
yes,
was we lost three national elections in a row, right? So you can't ignore that. So like you could say, oh, handle it differently, right? But that was the situation that they were in at the time, right?
yeah, exactly. So they recognize that, like, something new, right? And like being apart from what the Democratic Party orthodoxy is, and saying welfare reform allowed them to break out and build a new coalition, right? That allowed us to win. And a lot of the same things that are like, one of the points that they make is that, like, in when you're a minority party, there's a lot of people that are really comfortable being a majority in that minority party and want to keep that power for themselves, right?
Right.
And like, so like that's true. That's a very common dynamic, and you don't even need to look at political parties in order to see that, right? It's just like sort of like one of the faults of human psychology, and so, but like people are taking it to say that like we have to come out and like and like they say this in the article, and I don't agree with them, right? Like, and say like, like there's these, we're losing on these cultural issues, so we need to come out and like, assert something different there. I'm not sure if that's the strategy so much as like people don't believe like that government is working for them. That's why they were temperate about Doge, right? And like in immigration, they look at it and like, that's still like the highest number for Trump, right? No matter what, right? Like they like what he's doing and doing it. So like, our answer doesn't necessarily need to be like, okay, like beat up immigrants, right? Like because like right now we see them saying like women have all the babies in the world because so we can make up for the fact that we're pushing immigrants out of this country.
Yeah, right.
I think it's like much more like what are we offering that's new that allows us to meet people where they're at and get them on board. Now, I don't have the answer to that. Like, I've been like talking about like big governmental things, like we should go to a parliamentary system so that when we have a president that like murders the Constitution, we can vote him out, but like, or her out. But like the, like, what is it? I'm not sure what it is. Like, I'm not sure. And like, I don't think that like we can give up our values. But there needs to be something that allows us to grow our coalition and bring people in, right? And I don't think we can refute the fact that since 2008, we've lost vote share amongst working class voters every single election. It's gone down, right? And like we won in 2020, and everyone points to that. We underperformed the polls by 7 points. So, like we barely beat a president who killed millions of Americans and told them to drink bleach. Like,
right, inject chemicals into their veins.
like that's a fucking problem, right? Like we need to be winning bigger than that, right? And like how do we do it, right? And I think that like that's the sort of like that's the lesson that we need to take, because like I don't think that they're like, I personally don't love the idea of like of being down on like these disadvantaged and like vulnerable groups, right? Like that to me just feels wrong. I want, but I don't, I do think that we need to figure out how to be offering something that addresses what the majority of people want.
Yeah, right. Like we don't have to follow their recommendations, but we should read a piece like this and hear mechanically what they did so that we can come up with a solution that matches this era's
Yeah,
crisis
and let's have
moment.
that argument over what the solution
Yeah,
is, right? But like I do think that the mechanics of this argument that they're making are right. And like everyone's saying, like, well, they haven't won anything in 30 years or whatever. It's
neither
like
way. Yeah,
neither have we. Like, like Elaine Kamarck is like extremely smart, right? And she's like, like yeah, like everyone hates Harvard right now, but like or loves Harvard now, like depending on what it is. But like, she's like a Harvard professor and like someone who thinks about democracy deeply, right? So like I respect her for the work that she's done over her life. The fact that she stopped like the realignment around Republicans in the 90s. And like, that's good, right? Like I don't love how welfare reform like panned out. Like I don't like, it wasn't
regulations screwed us, right?
like a great thing. And like, like don't ask, don't tell, and all these other things that were, I think, horrible. But like I do think that we need to like, okay, structurally, this was what happened. We don't need to go back to that, like, exactly, like we don't need to become conservatives, but like, what is the thing that we need to do? And nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, I like the idea of making of like talking about which people and which communities deserve investments.
The
As
abundant stuff.
yeah, right. It's like like recognizing that we have limited resources and then deciding who gets those resources as a matter of political power, right? Like we're saying, like that we have to match
The
it up
opposite of
with,
abundance.
well, mm,
I mean, like I mean, I think that it's like we're the richest country in the world.
yeah,
We have the resources to solve problems. Let's
yeah,
do it, right? And so I mean, like the thing that they point to in this, I do agree that like I don't think it's anyone from Washington that's the next standard bearer. Like as much as like I love AOC, and like what she's been doing, but I just don't think like a legislator is the right person for where we need to go. I do think it's someone that's an executive and a governor. maybe, or someone completely outside, but that's just me. Um, like the point that they pointed to was like Shapiro built like rebuilding the highway in 11 days, right?
Hmm.
That's something
That's pretty impressive.
that's really impressive, right? And like that's something that's like demonstrated results, right? And like that's where we need to be, right? We need to be a party that delivers on change.
Fast.
Um, and like delivers on the fact that like most of this anger is the fact that like globalization has greatly like been over indexed towards like people in the top 5% because everyone in the market that had 401ks wound up doing it better while the middle class kept on falling behind, right? And like they got a little bit richer, but not nearly as much as like the rest of the world, right? And like the rest of the world's like poor came like we rose so many people out of poverty with globalization, right? Like globally. The people that didn't benefit, like that had less smaller benefits were the American middle class. And like, it was like so it became super divided among college education and whatnot. And like that was the ticket, right? Like to a brighter future. And like, but what's happening is that like we like because everyone in our party like went to college, like that my big knock on the Biden administration and the Obama administration was that there was no real people in it. Like everyone went to Harvard, Princeton, or Yale, right? And like say what you will about them, but like once you graduate from Harvard, like one of those schools, like you're not living life like a normal human being.
You have no
right?
idea.
No fucking clue.
Yeah.
Right. And like, like it's like like a lot of kids that we worked with over the last year who are working 3 like gig economy jobs to make ends meet. And like those are the people that we need to be concerned with, right? And like that's like, those are the people like those are the young people who are hustling and doing things that we need to figure out how to help. That there's no reason that any young person in America should ever be worried about their ability to buy a house and have a place to live, period. And like so we need to address that. And I don't think that like arguing over some of the stuff that we spend a lot of time arguing on does anything for us.
Can I offer like a a alternative perspective on what you just said?
Yeah.
And it has to do with race. And I want to say ahead of the time that I am a white person. I've experienced everything as a white person in America, so I don't want to represent this to be talking like representing the opinions of Black people, but it's just something that I've noticed. And my analysis of the American and world system is that the reason why uh, a lot of people have been satisfied with the hierarchy as it currently exists, where there's a hierarchy, people are above other people, and they're justified for being, the system justifies those people being up above other people. And the reason why a lot of people have been satisfied with their place in the hierarchy is because whether you want to acknowledge it or not, and I think everybody understands this, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, is because Black people have been at the bottom of that hierarchy. And I think the reason why we're seeing a breakup right now in the party coalitions, uh, especially around race, is because of 2 things. First, because the both the consensus that we've had over the last 40 years between the both parties, where we've been able to find bipartisan consensus, is around things that have ensured that everybody in the country, whether they're Black or not, are having the same general experience that, or similar general experiences to what Black people have had economically, where like everybody is feeling like they can't get ahead. I think Black people have always felt like they can't get ahead, from what I've heard from talking to Black people, and I feel like a lot of people who just felt like that in general, even beyond certain racial groups in this country. And then simultaneously, the Democrats have done a really outstandingly bad job at actually advancing the interests of people in their coalition, like Black people, and so there's just no trust at all that we'll be able to do anything about that. So right now, everybody's just sort of feeling the same things. When it used to be that a lot of white people were feeling like, "Hey, like I'm doing okay," right? And so right now, what I think that the parties are offering is we've now seen what Trump and our new Republican Party have on offer, and what they have on offer is basically to reestablish the old hierarchy and try to make sure that white men remain below the people at the very top of the hierarchy, but in a middle position. They're going to try to reestablish that hierarchy and say, you're back in this position again. two rungs up from the bottom, whereas before you're at the bottom. And so I think we haven't yet seen what the Democrats' answer to that is. And I think what and I don't know the answer to this, but I think that how we resolve that, what our answer is to that, like attempt to reestablish a hierarchy that basically just fell apart, is what is going to then structure the conversation for the next couple decades, and figure out who is able to answer the needs of the American people. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity that we have, to address everyone's needs together, because that hierarchy has broken down. That we can try to address a lot of the needs that you're talking about, where everybody is sort of feeling like they can't get ahead right now. That means that, before the Republicans are able to reestablish this really stratified, strict, and inescapable hierarchy, that we can try to address this in a way that makes sense. Not even necessarily around racial things, racial issues, explicitly, but just like making sure that all the policies that we put forward help everybody who feels like they're struggling, which includes a lot of different people right now. And so that's what I don't really have an answer for, but that's what I've been thinking a lot about lately.
Yeah, that's generally true, right? And it's like, as like a half Latino guy, and with my family from Puerto Rico, and we've been talking a lot about like Latinos and how they've moved over the course of different elections, and suddenly I think that there's a lot of Latino groups that feel singled out because of that, like the Venezuelans and Cubans and Florida being one of them. And like they sort of feel like things have gone completely astray. It's like, Puerto Rico just had another like island wide blackout, right? And like, and like, like we've had this like debate on the island for a long time about like, independence, like Commonwealth, and or like, associated Commonwealth or statehood, right? And like the promise of the Commonwealth system in the 50s, like when Puerto Rico sort of joined into that partnership with the United States, was citizenship and modernity. And so when I was growing up in and being in Puerto Rico quite a bit, like, that the roads were great, like, San Juan was like a gleaming city of like high rises and whatnot. And I've noticed that, like, ever since, and it was Obama that put this in, like the person who's the governor of Puerto Rico is a Trump supporting Republican that was right now. And like, Obama put in this this board, and like the financial oversight board. And since then, like infrastructure has fallen apart on the island. Like, you walk around, there's chickens all over the place, and it just feels like a very Central American Caribbean island, which it never had before, right? And so there's a lot of resentment. And then like the electricity went out for, again, island wide. And then like Bad Bunny posted this thing as like, what are we going to do about this, right? Like finally, like, what is it? Do we break off from the US? Because, and it's being seen on the island as, the United States has failed us.
Right.
Right. And like, this goes like way away from your point. And it's all right. I just wanted to
No. This is related. This is actually really tagged onto. It's not the same thing, because I'm talking about what I was talking about was the Democratic Party failing to like solve people's problems and actually advance their interests. But you're talking about it sort of at a national level with the same dynamic, which is like, it's like, yeah, we're like a, like if you're a Puerto Rican, you're saying, okay, yeah, we're not a state, but we're at least protectorate of the most powerful country in the world. They're going to look out for our interests in
and they're
exchange.
not, right? And I think a lot of people are like, the United States writ large
Yeah,
has failed us, right? And
yeah,
like the Democrats have been the cultural force that has dominated things, and like people feel like the the United States has failed us. That means the Democrats have failed us, and this is why like we're gonna go with Trump, who's just gonna like break
right.
shit, right?
I just
And like,
wonder how. I wonder how people feel like the Democrats have been the dominant force. It's so weird to me, because I see the last, even since Bush, like I've been politically, like, we're just talking about Clinton, right? So Clinton was sort of like the first acknowledgement by the Dems that the New Deal coalition was failing, because the Reagan coalition won 3 elections in a row, right?
yeah,
And then I became more politically aware, like the 2000 election, 2004, that's when I sort of came of age. And so the Bush years, it was very clear that the Reagan coalition was dominant. Like they were just doing all the same stuff. The Bush presidency basically just did the same stuff that Reagan talked about, but even more aggressively, right? Like taxes for the rich, a deregulation, and globalization. All the stuff that people are complaining about now. That was Reagan, and then made
Reagan started,
psychotic.
but like Clinton definitely accelerated it,
Right, right.
right?
Clinton acknowledged it, and then like moved in that direction too. And then there's
but
bipartisan
and
consent.
but was blocked by the Republicans from like the key is like
Yeah,
we got to pay service jobs more, and like the things that were around retraining and whatnot were blocked by the Republicans, but nobody
right,
recognized it because the presidency controls everything, right? Like in the mind of the average voter, and
right.
so like the most people's experience with globalization was NAFTA and that growth, right? And that's when like you started seeing the trade unions like get pissed off at us, and that's why
Yeah,
like UAW was standing next to Trump when he signed like the Liberation Day disaster uh, that unfolded for us. But like, I think that like while we all get mad about that, like, what's the reason why?
yeah. Why? What? Because from my perspective, as a political operative, the entire last since Reagan, since 1980, and we're what 2025 now, so that's 45 years, right? that that entire 45-year period has been a Republican era where the Democrats have only won occasionally, right? But it really has been all about the disintegration of the New Deal, which is a Republic like the Democrats created the New Deal, the Republicans are destroying it. So like I guess I just don't understand how maybe it's just because I'm
Perception,
a
right?
political operative. How could people get the perception that the Democrats were the ones responsible for and or in control of literally anything? Because we have been out of power over the last 45 years more often than we've been in power. And
Well,
Trump is really
think
continuation of
I think it goes back to the fact that like the Republicans until last cycle had only won the popular vote once since 1992,
that. Right.
right? And like only once. So and like Democrats were the cultural force in Hollywood, right? And like in TV, and like Jon Stewart was like the place that we all sort of like
Right. It's
came
because of
together around,
Hollywood.
right? And
It's
like cuz
because of
comedy,
Hollywood.
right? It was
Right.
comedy. It was comedy, like the comedy, like the comedic value was on the left, right? Especially during the Bush years and whatnot, right? And that like underneath Obama, it still was around Obama, but like I think that it started to shift towards the later as we became like we became Tipper Gore in a lot of ways, and like
Right.
like and for those who
Yeah.
don't know, Tipper Gore was the one who like went after video games and saying that like people playing like Wolfenstein was like turning them into like murderous maniacs.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and like
There's this famous Simpsons thing where like everybody's like talking, like, they're like a school board meeting or like a town meeting or something, and they're all like talking about something, like actually trying to solve a problem, and like
mhm,
the pastor's wife stands up and goes, "Won't someone please think of the children?" And they're all like, "Yeah, that's why we're having this meeting, right?" But she's just like freaking out. That's Tipper Gore, right? Like I think they
yeah,
made that woman to be like Tipper Gore, right? Isn't that the
yeah,
case?
exactly,
Right.
exactly. Like what are we doing to protect our children? And
Yeah.
like it's like yeah, exactly, right. But like the answer, like I just don't think like you know the answer is like ban everything and whatnot. But I think it's
Yeah.
like sunlight, and like I think that like we just haven't realized that everything is content right now, as we're going back to the earlier discussion.
Yes.
But I do think that when we win, like what we have to do is like open the algorithms and like actually change it, right? Like if you go to China and you're on TikTok, like the only thing you're getting is educational content, right? And
Mhm.
like and
And
like
here you're getting brain rot content.
you're getting brain rot content, right? Like it is like sitting there, and it's studies have shown actually makes your IQ go down over time, right? Because like
Yes.
it's just like you're being fed things and you're not thinking about things critically. And like it's in America, we can't like just see also the ban on TikTok. It's hard to do that because like so much business and whatnot has been developed on TikTok. So how do we preserve the ability to grow that are like building businesses about like their cooking shows or like how to make empanadas? But at the same time, like the stuff that's like literally killing our kids, right? Like I have to sit down and have conversations about Andrew Tate with my 12-year-old now, right? Like, because he's like just gotten to the age where like the YouTube algorithm opens up a little bit. And so
Wow.
and like is that but like I want to talk to him about it and like know that he can talk to me about what he finds. And we talk about like what he's seeing online and what he's seeing in his algorithms because that's like that's formative to them. And like,
Yes.
I think that like so many American parents right now, we're so freaking busy trying to keep our heads above water. And like, like working class parents are working 3 different jobs and their kids are just like, mainlining into these algorithms and we don't know what's there, right? And so the answer isn't like we got to ban everything. The answer is like open up the algorithms, have other people understand where it's going, and like that, like the engagement and is like how they're making money, and they're just like they're making money off of the radicalization of our children.
I think you've hit upon something here, Eric. And I don't. This isn't a fully formed thought, but I feel like what's actually needed is just the reverse of everything that's been, right? Like we've been atomized, we've been turned into our own little individual LLCs, and we change jobs all the time. And I think what we actually need is just like complete stability, right? Like
Community.
eh, complete stability in community where you're connected with people. You have 5 hours a day to spend with your kids that you're not working, and your kids are there with you, and with other families and with your family. And if we do that, that's what's going to help everything. And unfortunately, for those of us who would like to see more economic activity, that's just going to mean the economy is not going to go anywhere. I'm sorry,
Well,
but
I
that's
mean, AI is coming to take all of our jobs, right?
it's
So
true.
like, like
Let's just let AI do it all.
yeah, like no, maybe like we need human input, right? So we don't like end up with like Hal fucking killing us, like launching us
Right,
out
right,
of
right,
space.
right. Right,
But
but
like, but
but
I do like my wife and I were talking about this, and she's just like, she's like a hardcore feminist, right? And she's just like, with 2 parents working, it's impossible to really engage with our kids, right? And I think that's what a lot of people feel. And like, it's and
right.
like not to get too into the parenting thing, but like, because like God forbid, like any 20-year-old who's listening to this is like, I am going somewhere not here. But like
It's true.
the like that's the stuff I care about, right? And like I care about like engaging with them, and that's what most like people care about, engaging with other people. And
Yeah,
like and like we've made it hard to like engage in community, and everything is so individualistic. And like that's what I love about progressive victory, is that like it is a community, right?
yeah,
And like everybody, like every once in a while everyone's fighting over things, but like that's normal. And like but like we're all in this together, right? And that's sort of like I feel like is missing from a lot of what we do.
yeah. And I think it's what's really important to recognize is that all of the previous technology productivity gains that we've seen due to new technology in the last few decades since we've all been alive has all gone toward making us more committed to work and not toward giving us more leisure time as it had been advertised to do.
Yeah,
And
and that's
so
where Americans are getting frustrated. Like American productivity has gone up and up and up and up and up, and real wages and like real money and like and stuff has not been shared, right? And
so
like
if AI is the same, so if AI is the same, then I think we're going to end up in a situation where the populace will destroy everything associated with AI, right? Or and every other piece of tech. Like we're not going to be able to deal with this. We're not going to accept this in the future. Like that's what's happening right now. The Americans are saying we're not going to accept this deal any longer. We're not going to be more productive anymore. So I think that I'm okay with new technology as long as that technology is actually is the expectation of more productivity by humans is no longer established, and what we actually get is more money, more of a share of the money that's generated by all this technology going to the average person. Not necessarily redistribution. I'm not talking about socialism necessarily. I don't care how it happens, but whatever it is, the economy and the country needs to give more and more income to the average person and siphon less and less of it away to those at the top. And that is what's required if we're going to avoid civil war in this country, or some kind of violent something that happening.
yeah.
I don't think that we're going to end up in happy times unless that happens.
Yeah, I just think that like the people that are getting the most are the people that are siphoning like things off the people that actually do real work, right? Like
Right.
it's like the scam economy, like like a lot
Yes.
of the it's like the hedge funders are creating anything. They're trading on swings, shorting the market, and like, making money out and whether like a normal person's 401k goes up or down, right? And like, I think that is, it's like that's predatory and leeching, right? And I think that we see a lot of that in a lot of the right wing cultures where it's like, buy my supplements, buy this, buy
Yeah.
that, because that's the only way that they can make money, right? And it's just like,
Buy my
like,
course where I like yell at you like a drill sergeant and teach you how to date women like a boss, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like, and I think that like that's something that, like, great. And like in the meantime, all these things are like, just going back to that tab that was just showed on like, on Gamers Nexus, and it's like, it's like my boy Steve, who like taught me how to build computers and everything. Like going around and like talk, like, he was going to do this tour where he was going to talk to like hardware companies about like what this means to him, right? And he was trying to be he's very middle of the road. I don't even know what his political persuasion is. And like I always thought he was a little bit right coded. And like, after talking to these people, he's just like, this is the end of affordable computing, right? And like, like we're not going to be able to engage in like hobbies that we love anymore because like all this stuff is being taken away. And like, I don't know, like, yeah, so we spend too much time on screens, but like, I am fucking thrilled that Elder Scrolls Oblivion got remastered and like downloaded. I'm like stoked with my little spell sword build I have that I was up to like,
yeah.
I was complaining about being tired on this morning's call, but like I stayed up till 2 a.m. Playing Oblivion, and then like, my baby peed the bed because like we're tired and just let him sleep in the bed. And like, but like,
Eric, your life is so fun. Yeah, look, Eric, everything you're saying, I totally agree with, and I just want to, I think the reason why a couple months ago I was feeling much more doomer, and now I'm feeling more like aggressive and confident, is because I think that if I had seen the Trump administration and Trump himself actually give a shit about how the average person is doing and take literally any action at all to help give Americans more leisure time, more income, literally anything, I would be much more worried about our political prospects than I am right now. But he's done dog shit. He's done absolutely nothing that would you could say roundabout that if tariffs offer a level of protection to U.S. manufacturing, then private company entrepreneurs who are going to make all the money are going to be able to start companies or like start new plant factories that will generate like a fraction of the jobs that a factory plant used to have, but at least it'll be like maybe 10% of the workforce that we've lost, right? Like you could say that in a roundabout way over the course of 10 years that will do something for like trade unionists. But like that's still a minor part of the economy. It's not addressing the average person's concern. But he isn't doing anything. He has not taken a single step. If he wants to see Americans have more babies, which is his whole thing, like him and Elon Musk, they're like all about babies. Great. I fucking love. Like I have a kid. I have a small child. Let's all have babies. Fucking amazing. Let's do it. Right? How? How in God fucking name are we going to have babies? And it's not. You cannot just go for the babies. In order to feel comfortable having a baby, like they're talking about like cool shit, like if you have a baby, you get $5,000 tax break. That's awesome. I'm still not going to have another baby. You want to know why? Because if I can't buy a house and get married and have an income that makes me feel like I got a little breathing space, extra money left over at the end of the month, there's no fucking way I'm going to start another family, have more babies at all. Like $5,000 does nothing. And so what's actually needed in order to get people having babies is to have Americans work less hours and have more income for those hours that they're working. And there's no way around it. Nothing else will do anything. And if they don't do that, then they will not address these problems. And so I do think that we have an opportunity now as Democrats to really take this on aggressively if we want to and say we like our slogan, like the Democratic Party, like Barack Obama's slogan was yes we can. Next slogan could be fewer hours, more pay, more time with your family.
Coming back full circle, this just happened. Judge blocks the executive order on voting. So I'm claiming victory.
I think we should. And I'm hearing that there may be maybe a victory party brewing in the PV server for those of you who are watching who are members of PV. So stay tuned about that.
Yeah, exactly. So like we fucking won, right? And like, like this is like part of it. And like, like this action is I mean quick and like awesome and works. So
And if we do more stuff like this, we're going to beat them over and over and over and over again. And the more that we beat them publicly, give them thrashings publicly, the less frightening they are, and the more that their narrative around like a mandate to do all this psycho shit falls apart, because everybody's going to know that the American people are pushing back hard en masse with thousands and thousands of people doing shit to stop them, and that those people are not like the characters that they make us out to be, but that we're just normal people who want to live our lives, and they're trying to stop us from living our lives. These Republicans wants to stop us from living our fucking lives. Let me live my life, Republicans. Let me live my life. That's what we are doing, right?
yeah, exactly. So I am so unbelievably excited about this. I think it's like, it's amazing and shows that we can push back. And like they're gonna keep on doing these. Like we didn't even get to the Act Blue thing about like them going after
God, yeah.
like like the main platform of the Democrats, but like they're generating all this stuff to make us crazy. And I really think that like what the special sauce of this space is, and like what young people act like doing things that like people actually care about, is that we can like go to the people and get help, right? Like and like give them ways to engage. And like the Act Blue stuff is crazy. They're trying to say that like no, it's rampant fraud. Like I wouldn't doubt that like the right wing trolls, like because they're super edgelordy, are like going on the dark web and like trying to use fraudulent credit cards to like give donations to random Democrats to make a point of this. But like the controls are actually pretty good. And like if you're gonna go after Act Blue, you got to go after Win Red, because like it's probably like anything that they accuse us of, they're doing.
Yeah, the individual donor is the one that's making an attestation that they are legally able to donate.
Yeah,
So,
not the platform.
Right. So if they have a problem with this, we should find out who the fraudulent donors are, and track them out. And if they're right wingers, we should put them into jail for making fraudulent donations.
Sorry, my clicky keyboard is driving Jay insane. I had to get the super clicky mechanical keyboard because.
All right.
But this is great.
This has been a really good discussion, Eric. I appreciate you starting this campaign, which has been so much fun to get the PV community working on, and I appreciate the conversation. It's been actually super inspiring and fun. And yeah, let's go get back to it, huh?
Yeah, it's just awesome because like the PV community is just like it's instant reaction, right? Like we were able to do things so quickly, and like we got like other communities like that. Like no, there's like all these voter protection communities and all these other people that are out there like engaged, but like the power of the internet is like for so long it's been used to communicate at people, but what we can do as Democrats is bring people together around things, and like create actions, and we can win.
We can. And we are winning, right? It's going to be a slow path, but we are winning day by day. We're going to have more and more wins, and that's what'll see us through.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Great to see you, and have a wonderful rest of your weeks.